China is starting to operate AI dumping, offering to the market better and better and better models that are pretty close to the US models, open source, so pretty much free. And that might create a huge crash in the stock market. There will be an infinite demand for AI, but there won't be an infinite number of demand for AI at those high costs. If someone tells me I can reduce this $500 million bill to a $5 million bill, it would be irresponsible not to take that deal. And that deal is going to be available on the market. And when that's done, it's going to be very difficult for Anthropic and OpenAI to justify charging such high prices for their models.
Silicon Valley firms find that Anthropic and OpenAI are too expensive, and the tokens cost too much money, and they just start using these Chinese models to do all their work. Then that's a huge revenue loss for the Anthropic and OpenAI, and it's like a, it's a big loss for the entire ecosystem because you don't have money coming in to pay the hyperscalers who are, I call it the AI gravy train. It's like the government, like they just spend money without any questions asked. Like this is how AI is working now. Like Micron has an 85% profit margin on its memory chip sales, and the reason for that is they can just charge whatever, and the AI firms are so concerned about falling behind in their buildup that they just ask no questions, they just spend it. So then what happens is that if you have a problem over time where these firms eventually realize they're not going to get the return on the investment then they make, then the entire bubble just falls apart.
So basically, it's a threat in terms of both capability and pricing, because it sounds like ZAI, they can do like 95% of what Anthropics and OpenAI can do, but at a much cheaper pricing. And it's open source.
There's another advantage, right? Like if you use an open source model, you can host it on your own server if you're worried about data security. And aside from that, you can fine tune the model with your own data, and you can change it a little bit, and then you're entirely safe that way. And when you fine tune with your own internal data, then you can make it suit your own application. So that's something that I think people don't nearly appreciate enough, because a lot of big firms, they have been just giving away their data to Anthropic for like a couple years now. And Dario has the audacity of attacking other people for distilling his models. I mean, he's been taking our data for like 3 years. What is this guy talking about? This guy has been stealing everyone's data for 3 years, and nobody even knows like what Anthropic is doing with all this stuff, right? Like they're probably just stealing everyone's intellectual property.
And he's on record of saying open source is a threat because because we don't control it. Basically, he said because we can't control it, so we don't know it's gonna fall into some hands of some terrorists who are gonna use the open source AI to do harm. So we have to put a kibosh on that, which is
the scaling of open source models. I think it's going down a very dangerous path, and if the path continues, I think we could get to a very dangerous place. I think it's worth saying some things on open source models that are clear to all the experts, but I want to make sure is understood by this committee, which is when you control a model and you're deploying it, you have the ability to monitor its usage. It might be misused at one point, but then you can alter the model, you can revoke a user's access, you can change what the model is willing to do. When a model is released in an uncontrolled manner, there's no ability to do that. It's entirely out of your hands. And so I think that should be attended to carefully. There may be ways to release models open source so that it's harder to circumvent the guardrails, but that's a much harder problem, and we should confront the advocates of this with that problem and challenge them to solve it. Finally, I'd say open source is a little bit of a misnomer here, right? Open source normally refers to, smaller developers who are iterating quickly, and I think that's a good thing. But I think here we're talking about something a little bit different, which is a more uncontrolled release of larger models by again, to your point, Senator Hawley, like much larger entities that pay tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars to train them. I think we should think of that in a little bit of a different category, and their obligations in a little bit of a different category.
Well, it's a threat to him being a trillionaire. Yeah, like that's what his threat at. Like everyone that goes to Silicon Valley knows these days. If you want to buy a place that's more than $5 million, it's very hard to find those places. If you want to buy a place that's under 4 million, they're widely available because they're either creating a lot of like really rich people and then killing the rest of the software engineers.
Yeah, I mean that's really what all these this AI race is supposedly AI race China is all about now. Like they're using China as the as an excuse, as a rationale that why we gotta continue to spend gazillion dollars on AI bubble in United States because we cannot lose to China for some reasons. But what?
Yeah, but like I would say, like if you think about it, it's good that the Anthropic has become the face of this because there's such easily identifiable villains in this matter, right? That if you had like Elon promoting this stuff, it might actually work. But because Dario is such a villain, how he's preventing this, and he spends all day telling the world we're gonna kill everyone with our models. So now it's getting restricted by the U.S. government because he's been telling everyone we're gonna kill.
Oh, we just lost TP for a second. He is back. What happened? What happened? Did Dario get you, TP?
Probably. Also, don't dare to criticize Elon Musk because you don't know what he's gonna do.
Yeah, we are live streaming on X as well, by the way. So
Elon, God, you're great. Elon, you're great. Okay, Dario is evil.
The common refrain now I hear from Eric Schmidt of all people is that Chinese model, open source model, still about 4 to 6 months behind the frontier model, like Anthropic's and OpenAI. Do you think that's an accurate assessment?
What I like about this is that we have real competitors. What I don't like about it is China is very focused in broad diffusion of this technology globally, and it's all open source, which means it's largely uncontrolled and not controlled in any way by us. So I think a fair statement is a year ago I said I thought that they were 1 to 2 years behind. It looks like they've caught up enough that the most recent analysis is China's within 6 months, which is a nanosecond, right, in our world. So it gives you a sense of how committed China is to the AI leadership position. And they're not going to stop. If it makes you feel any better, in order to do this, you have to have a whole country of engineers, scientists, nerds, money, hardware, and so forth. There are not going to be many countries that can do this on their own. But China's clearly one. America's another one with our allies, of course.
Yeah, like I think in general, right, there's just different ways we can measure. Not like models are always stronger in one area and weaker in another area. Like so in some areas it could be 2 to 3 months behind. In other area it might be 7 to 8 months behind. So I think 4 to 6 months, when you say GLM is 4 to 6 months behind, I'm okay with that. Like a lot of people would say this is like the Chinese version of Opus 4.6, and it came out 4 months after Opus 4.6. So I would say that, if you want to say it's 6 or 7 months behind, that's fine. That's what you want to say. But if you want to say it's like already for your own purpose, it's as good as Opus 4.8, that's good too. We did get to a point last week where because Fable was off market, not usable, and GPT 5.6 was getting restricted also, that GLM was almost as good as the for software engineering tasks, almost as good as the best American models available. So this was causing a panic amongst like a lot of the leading Silicon Valley people who are saying like, "What are you doing?" And people like David Sachs and Mark Andreessen, that type of people, because they realize this model is good. A lot of people are going to use it if U.S. government does the hard work of nerfing all the latest U.S. models for global users, right? And
you know that's a lot of comments were saying when, and I think it was earlier today, Anthropic said, "Oh, United States government just lifted export control on us," and everybody in the comments like, "Did you nerf it? Did you just nerf the model that you released to everybody? Is that what happened?" I
I
mean, those
mean,
are valid questions.
they've been nerfing their models for a while now, right? Like, um, they run out of memory. I guess they run low on compute, so then they just don't want to give you the full compute that they have, so they give like they've been giving users shitty experiences for like a couple months now, like, this is why it's good to have genuine competition to them. I mean, we got to the point where GLM is clearly ahead of Gemini in the model race in terms of software engineering tasks, and you know, Google is
Well,
falling behind, and their people are leaving and going to Anthropic. So like, it's very much like very possible in the next year you're gonna have a four-horse race between OpenAI, Anthropic, GLM, and Kimi as the four
wow.
best labs, and none of them are hyperscalers. And Meta has already been knocked out of the picture for a couple of years, for a year now. So like, it is very interesting how things are. So we
And
think
do
that over the next couple of months, right? Kimi Moonshot is going to come out with Kimi 3 around in July, so this sometime this month, and GLM is gonna come out with something pretty big in August. So
and do we know for sure that ZAI and Moonshot and Kimi Moonshot, they all use Chinese chips, Huawei chips?
okay, so that's then kind of the interesting part. For ZAI, they use the Chinese chips mostly for inference at the moment, and the main reason for that is they've been waiting on the Atlas 950 superpods for a while. So they haven't really been using Ascent stuff for training. And I'm not sure about Moonshot, but DeepSeek is pretty much in the same boat, that they've been using the Chinese chips for inference, but for the actual training part of it, they did most of it still in Nvidia chips, and the um, both DeepSeek and ZAI made it pretty obvious, I think, when they get the Atlas 950 superpods, that they're gonna do a lot more, most of their training on that. And I think it's because Atlas 950 is actually a pretty big jump, expected jump in terms of software support, in terms of just the computation it's able to do versus the earlier Ascend clusters.
What do you say to Anthropic's and Dario's accusation that the Chinese AI got to where they are because they're running distillation attack against, against Anthropics and OpenAI, and now it's leading Anthropics to kind of filtering for Chinese users from China. Which has been confirmed. They're now like targeting Chinese users. So I guess they want to do that to prevent distillation from China.
Well,
I
my,
mean,
my thing is, you've been stealing data off Chinese users for 2 years now. Like, he's been distilling data off everyone else. Look, distillation is a common practice. Meta admitted that they do distillation. Musk admitted he was doing distillation on the core filings with XAI. I mean, it's a common practice, right? There's obviously stuff like benchmarking you can do when you use someone else's API. You could do some benchmarking, and you can also do distillation to see what their stuff generates, right? So use knowledge from there. So it obviously helps you speed up, because Anthropic was the first one to actually get their clock code into everyone's hand, take everyone's data, and then create their models. So people tend to use them first. But if it makes Dario feel better, like I think both Kimi and ZAI has gotten to the point they got so much data now that they can do their own like self-improvement. They don't need to use they'd already distilled enough actually, so they don't actually need Anthropic to do this anymore. I mean, they could still do it for like every lab. They do benchmarking versus other labs to see like how well the other ones perform. To see they want to evaluate like how good their model is compared to the competitor's model, right? That's pretty legitimate stuff. So I think that I don't have any sympathy for Anthropic. They're evil. So
I don't think many people have sympathies for Dario and Anthropics. But I have a question. So, listening to other US quote unquote AI expert talking about this AI race, a lot of them are still saying, okay, well, as long as we can maintain this 4 to 6 month lead on the Chinese AI, that once we reach AGI first, then we'll have equivalent of thousands of PhDs training new PhDs, except they don't need to sleep and they don't need to take a dump, and then you will just grow exponentially. The artificial super intelligence will grow exponentially. China will never catch up. But what I hear you saying was that the 4-6 month gap is not a big deal. So what if China achieve AGI 4-6 months later? I mean, is there credibility? Go ahead. Sorry.
I still don't understand what the point of AGI is. Is it just so you can do cyber attacks? Like that to me seems like the only two purposes I find so far for these LLMs. I mean, they help me. They help me do regular stuff to make my life a little easier, right? If I want to do something on my computer, you can ask it questions, and it helps you walk you through that stuff. But it seems like application-wise, its main purpose for the national security folk is actually just cyber warfare, from what I can see. So when they say that it's 4 to 6 months ahead, I would say that that's probably going to be maintained. Why I said RSI is important, recursive self-improvement is important, is because once you get to a point where your own models can operate like intelligent sources, that it can just what we call long context. So you give it a lot of information, it can just think for a long time to solve problems. Once you get to that stage, then what it could do is it could look at your current model, right? And then it can design improvements. It's saying like, oh, this is actually what you're doing right now is okay, but this could make your model even better if you do it this way. And then it can give you ideas of how to design new models and do different experiments and train new models. So that's kind of like what the idea behind RSI is. And once you get to that stage, then the idea is your product improvements will go a lot faster. And people might have noticed like Opus have been moving pretty fast since their 4.5, whereas like Google has basically stopped. So, and Dario keep on talking about RSI every time about how he can improve their own models. And that's kind of like the big deal with GLM 5.2 is that GLM 5.1 was the first GLM models where you could just tell it to do something and it could think for 8 hours just working on it. So then you saw this huge improvement from 5.1 to 5.2 because 5.1 was so good at this stuff. And similarly, Kimi's 2.6 was like they were like those two models made a big deal when they reached that stage because they're like, oh, looks like they can just think on their own and make improvements. So the idea is once Chinese labs hit this stage, and if they have enough data from people like you and me using it, people who are using it through Open Router, once it has enough sources like this, then it can just improve itself. and that's how it can keep improving itself and keep 4 to 6 months behind, or maybe even catch up even sooner. The concern for a lot of people weren't that the Chinese labs actually don't have enough compute. It's more that they don't have the data pipeline.
Why not? I mean, you would think with such huge population, China will have all the data it needs.
Well, there's a lot of Chinese people using cloud code, right?
Okay.
So people in China also love using cloud code. So that's kind of actually the problem. The problem is Chinese people have been giving Dario so much free data for all this time.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like you mentioned it, like
I never personally
DeepSeek only gained recognition domestically because DeepSeek was known internationally first, and then it gained wide
so
recognition
the biggest
inside
issue is
China.
Chinese people hate themselves too much. Like I find people online saying, "Oh, our Chinese models are good." So I ask them, "What do you use at home?" They're like, "Oh, we use Claude." I was like, "Okay, so why are you using Claude if the Chinese model is good enough?" Then I don't use Claude. I use Zcode.
That's funny.
Yeah, I
So
use Kimi code and Zcode on my machine. I don't let Cloud have any of my data, And then you have all these Chinese people who use Cloud code all day, and then they wonder why Claude has this much data to train on. It's quite amazing stuff actually.
um, so yeah, like it's interesting you say that Chinese AI models' biggest problem is not compute. So you don't think the hardware limitation is a problem? Because right now, United States is building AI centers like crazy, right? There's tons of investment going in to build data centers in United States, and the whole premise that these people betting on that United States will win by brute power, by brute force, by building tons of data centers and with unlimited access to Nvidia's latest AI chips, that US will win based on brute strength, brute compute power. But you seem to think Chinese companies do not lack compute.
I think they were a little short on compute, to be honest, especially with ZAI. I have some contacts at ZAI. They told me that for training, they were using a cluster of 10,000 H100. But, now that they're going to get Ascend and, as you mentioned earlier, Meituan just showcased that you can train like a 1.6 trillion parameter model on just, a last generation Ascend cluster. Then going forward, these labs will have a lot more compute. I mean, DeepSeek has been doing these job postings recently about their new having a new data center in Inner Mongolia. They're saying they want upwards of 1 gigawatt of compute, right? So that's like a huge increase over what they have now. And part of the work that they've been doing all this time is to get their software stack to be able to run these models on Ascend, to be able to do continuous training, because your model always need continuous training to absorb more data and keep improving, right? Like you can't stop training if you're an AI lab. So yeah, so once they have access to the Atlas clusters, and maybe that's going to be a Q3 kind of thing, then they will be able to do a lot more experimentation. The argument about the compute was that if you have more compute, you can do a lot more experimentation, and you can do like different ideas that your models say you should try this design to see if you can get better results, and then you have to do scripts. If your model is good enough, right, then you can have models to determine if your experiment is a good one or not. So you have your validation steps along the way. But if we get to the point where the Chinese labs have a lot more compute, then they can run a lot more of these experiments. And you could make the argument that because the US labs had all this experimentation, that's why the Chinese labs had to do some distilling off them before. Or you could also make the argument that, I guess, up until now, we've had several labs in China, each running their own experiment, and then they open source their research result. So in a way that they're all running research and they're all helping each other out. So, but with more compute, they should be able to do training that they weren't able to do before. So that's kind of the hope. And I think if you ask any lab, do you want more compute to do training? Everyone would say yes, right? And that's where all the IPO, all the fundraising, and the domestic cluster comes in, because then they have more resources to do all this training and to continue to invest in the R&D and such.
Well, but fundamentally, on the hardware level, Chinese side still have a handicap, right? That they're competing against, they're using older DUV machines, using multi-patterning, trying to get to like 7 nanometers, while TSMC that can get access to the latest EUV machine and make 3 nanometer chips. And doesn't that make a difference?
It could. I think when it comes to the system, you could have different things. So the biggest difference between a 3 nanometer and 7 nanometer when it comes to compute is you use up more energy for a 7 nanometer chip, and might create more heating that you need to resolve. It might use more electricity you need to resolve, right? So I think some of the things that Huawei had to do when they're designing their system around domestic supply chain is it had to make the actual chips smaller to, one, get higher yield on them, because the domestic processes have lower yield, so you have to adjust around that. You have to make the chips a little smaller, so the amount of heat generated off them, it's easier to get them off the board and don't damage things. And those are the considerations you have to make. And also there are other parts of the system. For example, Huawei is going to go to an all optical cluster with Atlas 960, and part of the rationale for that is so that they can take advantage of its own personal advantage in telecom and in networking to achieve similar level of performances to like an Nvidia cluster, because it can link more chips together, and optical networks are probably faster than copper ones, but you need higher expertise in networking to get to there. So when it comes to the Chinese clusters, once you get to a point where it has a full domestic supply chain and it can produce enough chips, then even if it uses a little more electricity and generates a little more heat, it's not a problem, because in Inner Mongolia, the weather is very cold most of the year. So it has a lot of natural air cooling. And it's also next to a lot of wind turbines, which are really cheap sources of energy, right? So the kind of problems that US firms and Chinese firms face are different. Like, even if you have to use twice the amount of power to run your data centers, it's not a big deal for a Chinese company, because you just get it from the grid, right? Like, I was looking at some of the figures recently, and the Chinese Energy Agency is saying that essentially only about 20% of the expected power draw increase over the next 5 years comes from AI. So it doesn't even like it can see all these projects in the pipeline, right? It can see all these the cloud service providers in China doing these projects. It can see all these different data center projects along the line, and it has no issue with supplying the power for that. So whereas in America, you have GPUs just laying out in the warehouses right now, waiting for other part of um, the full supply chain to catch up. Like Meta has like warehouses of GPUs just lying around because, you know, the rest of the supply chain is not ready. So I think once these Chinese labs have that atlas, then they can have a lot more compute, and you know, the amount of compute deficit they have to American labs is likely to shrink over time, not increase, because it's taken quite a while for the Chinese labs to get to a point where they can have these atlas clusters that's usable for training.